Hi, I'm One Shot McGee, and this is my cohort Bullseye Bobby, and we're doing this in one attempt.
Fuck
No
yeah.
cuts. Let's
Yeah.
go.
No edits, no cuts, nothing. Fuck it, we'll do it live.
This is essentially as live as we can be without
Yeah.
actually being live.
Yep.
So
Although we might, I know we've talked about doing some live stuff here sometime soon. I don't know if that's going to happen, but
maybe
eh, like do a podcast on a Twitch stream or something.
depends if the people want to see it that way.
That is true. That is true.
So the first thing you need to do is join the Discord, and then tell us they want to see it that way, and then I'll make it happen.
Yeah, I'd be down for it. People could
Because this
actually.
podcast starts our month-long countdown to our 1-year anniversary.
Just one more month. Holy shit.
Yep. 4 more podcasts, 1 more month, 4 more inane ramblings from us as we talk about D&D related things, and then 1 year, and then I don't know. I do the second half about Magic the Gathering, I guess.
I mean, with all the stuff that's coming out, I could talk Magic for hours right now. Yeah, because you got the D&D stuff coming out. Modern Horizons 2 is coming out, of which squirrels are finally going to be playable in Commander.
I
I dropped way too much money over the past couple of days ordering cards, just waiting for Modern Horizons so I can make a fucking squirrel deck.
Squirrels are very deadly enemies. They come in swarms. They can be individual. They can be giant.
Craig rages when he sees one, so they've
Right.
obviously got to be terrifying.
The one opponent Doctor Doom cannot beat is Squirrel Girl.
Yep, she even beat Thanos.
Yeah,
So yeah,
squirrels are
squirrel
powerful.
squirrels. That's going to rule Magic the Gathering.
Well, that and everyone else's rage about that one dumb card that basically pulls Black Lotus out of nowhere.
Oh yeah, that's the 2 card infinite combo bullshit. Yeah. Yeah.
But they're not making a token for Black Lotus, so if you don't own it, can't play it. Well,
Now you
proxy.
can. Now you can.
Get some proxies.
Yep. I actually
So
have a proxy Black Lotus.
everybody does. It's called a swamp.
No, I actually have a proxy of a Black Lotus. But
You write Black Lotus on it. So speaking of proxies, what's your favorite proxy token to use when
proxy
you play?
token.
Yeah, when you play live on table with actual people around it, and you have your miniatures on there, and you don't have the right black bear miniature. What's your most favorite proxy token?
Okay, so if I have to have an owlbear miniature and I don't have a owlbear miniature, you're just asking what mini would I use?
Yeah.
Probably something of the same base size. I personally, I wouldn't care what it is. I'd be like, this, it's a horse, but it's an owlbear because it's the same size.
I
Yeah,
bought
yeah.
back when I started 4th edition. They had like this monster manual Pog set essentially.
Mhm.
Like they'll just punch out like little small cardboard tokens, and it had all the monsters in the monster manual. So it still applies to pretty much every monster that would be in 5th edition right now. So, it's got purple worms, beholders, the ancient black dragons, the whole shebang, and they got like different ring sizes. One of the cool things they have is they have just a straight Monster 1, Monster 2 in various sizes. Just token. I can just use.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
that's perfect.
here's Monster 1. That's a bear.
I
But
actually, I really like that idea of Pog tokens instead of minis because minis are expensive, but Pog tokens,
mm,
man, you could make a lot of those for real cheap.
yeah, I see a lot of cutouts too. Like you just print out a sheet of paper and like cut them out and like fold them and like they stand up and little cheap paper miniatures essentially.
Yeah.
Um, but I use in 4th edition a like a porcelain frog as a stand-in for a monster,
Flawed.
and then a bad guy.
A flawed.
It wasn't a slot; it was just a large frog. I just put it there. I needed something. I said that's the big bad end guy. And they're like, "What does it look like?" It's like you look at it and you can't understand exactly what is there your brain can't just make it out. So I then used it later on for another monster, not remembering that I used it for the big bad end guy earlier, and I'm
Oh
like,
man,
oh shit, there's that frog again.
he's back. Oh
He's
no.
back, and so I had to start bringing this frog back in occasionally to be this like otherworldly presence that's just there watching them slowly just eating away at their sanity as they're trying to
From the outer
uh
realms.
yeah. And I never figured out anything to do with him. It's
Ah,
still to this day just a porcelain frog that I had on the table. The players made all the story up around that thing.
players will
So
do that. Like players love making stories for you, even if they don't intend to. They'll just come up with something, and next thing you know, you're off selling houses while shit's blowing up in the marketplace. Don't.
yeah,
I probably told that story on here before.
yeah. So yeah, what I was talking about was the Wizards of Coast Monster Vault and Essentials Dungeons and Dragons kit. Um, it's pretty much just got, like I said, every monster pog token in the
Huh.
monster manual. New and used for $80, or starting at $80.
Not that's not awful. I
No,
mean, it's
there's a lot
pricey.
of tokens in there.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
was gonna say, but you buy it once and you're probably reasonably set for a while.
yeah, but then they have like the fantasy miniature action figure playset, 100 miniatures for $25.
Oh, well,
Lot
that
of
seems
horses though.
still. I mean, yeah. Look, if I can supplement a horse in for a bear, that sounds good to me.
I hate doing that. Like I went so far that I was placing an order with Miniature Market
Mhm.
like every week. Okay, I need this many Minotaur for this next game, so buy all these Minotaurs. And the crappy Minotaurs are $5 a piece. The cool Minotaurs are like $20 a piece.
Ugh.
Now I'm spending a couple $100 of miniatures a month.
Yeah. See, I
Just
can't do that. That's too much.
yeah, well, I single and disposable income.
Yeah, that's fair. I
Yeah.
just spent all my money on magic cards.
I spent all my money on just everything recently. Oh my god. So
So yeah, miniatures. Like I spent most of my D&D years not really using miniatures. Yeah, vast majority of it's just theater of mind or a simple map that's laid out to show locations and where people are standing. That to this day, that's still how I run most D&D games. Sometimes we'll
yeah,
break out the minis, but not all the time.
yeah. I always feel like the minis make the game, and I've kind of had that argument before on other podcasts, but I really like the idea of having those there. And so I have enough right now that I think I can make do. You know,
Yeah,
I have a set of goblins, I have a set of kobolds, I have a set of woodland creatures.
I think
Every
part of my
once in a while, I run out of like specific woodland creatures, but then I just designed the encounter around not needing four giant owls.
right. You only need the three because that's how many miniatures you own of them.
Yeah, throw three of those in, and then a raven for
Yeah.
whatever reason, a
Yep.
giant raven.
Yeah, see, I started playing D&D back in the day, back in my day, in the 90s, and the only miniatures you could really buy back then were like Ralpartha miniatures, which were, one, they're the crappy pewter miniatures, and two, they were like $5 to $7 a piece, something like that.
Yeah,
So yeah, and I was making a little bit of money, but not enough to spend it all on that. Instead, I just bought D&D books and Magic cards.
but you can. Wizards does like whenever they release a new set, like Frostmaiden, they release a bunch of miniatures that tie into what
Yeah,
Frostmaiden is. So if you spend $100 and you buy a brick of random miniature box set things, you're gonna get enough miniatures in that one brick to run that campaign. I did that for Waterdeep, and I got just enough of the main NPCs, just enough of like the town guard and stuff like that to basically just supplement the entire game.
yep.
And it worked out great. And like, $100, and I got like, I don't know, 120 miniatures or something like that.
Yeah.
It,
Yeah,
it,
well,
it,
now,
it was
yeah,
worth it.
yeah. Nowadays that they're all plastic, it's not as hard to, you know,
Yeah.
get a lot of them. It's definitely a lot cheaper.
And now with 3D printing as easy as it is, you
Yeah.
can just 3D print all your characters.
Yeah. Yeah. That's something I've never gotten into, but I have friends who do it, and it works out well. Saves them a lot of money.
Yeah. So, I don't know why I thought about that. While I was kind of browsing Reddit earlier today, and I saw a thing about a coyote trying to get to a deer carcass, and there was an eagle on its way, and the eagle is like twice the size of the coyote.
That's like the most American fucking thing I've ever heard.
But it just made me realize how big eagles are, and like if you need a large bird and that you don't have that token, like you're just using a horse.
Yeah.
And then like you have a large eagle and you have a large horse, and the eagle's not the same size as the horse. Horse-sized eagles, kind of scary. It's a griffin. That's a
Yeah.
whole different CR.
Yeah, that's kind of terrifying. Just imagining a horse flying out of the sky trying to eat you. Fuck all that noise.
Well, that's a Pegasus then.
Yeah. Well,
Bloodthirsty Pegasus.
Yeah, somehow Pegasi are evil in that campaign setting, oddly enough. Uh, one thing I wanted to mention before we really get, well, two things I need to mention before we really get going into this. First off, my name is Jay, my real name, not whatever the fuck you called me earlier, Billy or some shit like that.
Bullseye Bobby.
Yeah, that. That's not my name.
Yeah, it is
Two,
Bobby.
okay, sure thing, Christopher. Uh, but yeah, the other thing that I wanted to say is if I say some shit on this podcast that is absolutely incorrect about the rules and stuff, guess what? I don't know shit, okay? I talk out of my ass most of the time.
Did,
So
did
yeah, I'm probably wrong on whatever the hell I'm talking about.
did someone call you out and you get mad?
Oh, I'm not mad at all. I really am not. I just want to point out, that because a lot of the people who listen to the podcast I know personally, but there's other people who I haven't. I've never met them. I will never meet them in my life, and I don't want them to actually think that I know what the fuck I'm talking about because I don't.
Wait,
I
wait, wait. I've been gone for 2 weeks. What happened?
no. Well, okay, so simulacrum. Remember, because that was the discussion we had last podcast we talked about. I think with
Right.
simulacrum. Apparently, and you were correct on your assessment of simulacrum. It is not half your level.
Okay.
It is actually your level. It doesn't gain levels as you do. So whatever level you cast it at, that's the level it is.
Okay.
I was confusing it. As always, I have the old edition itis. So
Right.
in third edition, it was half your level.
Interesting.
I know. So actually,
And
the stuff we had talked about previously with the simulacrums and how you would use them. Well, yeah, actually, that seems pretty reasonable.
I mean, I can't wait for that to happen. So, who called you out, and how did you find out about that?
Well, my players.
Oh,
Uh,
just your players.
yeah.
Well, they're allowed to, you know.
Yep. Well, my other DM, he's the one who told me about it, and even he didn't know that. So,
Ooh.
yeah, like one of our players told him, and then he told me. I got it third hand, but then I went and looked, and it's like, son of a bitch, I've been playing it wrong for all these years.
If you do want to call out Jay for being wrong about stuff, I highly advise that you do. Just come to our Discord, just at Jay, and
Oh,
just say, "Hey,
I'll tell you
you're
now,
dumb."
if you at me, I'm probably not ever gonna see it.
I'll see it. I'll bring it up in the next podcast.
That's fair. Otherwise, because I probably will not.
So yeah, I'm definitely going. Even before that, I was gonna go. I was gonna just go full wizard and just wreck stuff.
Yeah. And now you can have a simulacrum helping you that has the same spells you do.
Yeah. It's just gonna be whatever that two combo I decided on doing was.
Yeah. Now it does have half your hit points. So
Oh
it can't
no.
yeah, oh no, my simulacrum has half my hit points. Wah.
Yeah, I haven't done anything D and D in the past 2 weeks, man.
Oh,
I
well, you've been
haven't. I
gone.
haven't. I haven't read a single book. I did buy Van Richtenstein's guide to
Oh,
the domains of Fredericksburg or whatever it's called.
definitely the name of it.
One of my players was reading through it. Actually, a couple of them were, and they said that all the big bads in it are really weak, like just like average CR kind of monsters, and like just like assassins and with a little bit of flair added to them. Um, so I haven't had a chance to really look through it,
Well,
but I did buy it. I picked it up.
like Strahd, though, he was relatively weak as well. The earlier edition versions of Strahd's, like second edition, he was pretty badass. And once again, I'm probably just making this up because I have no idea. But I'm assuming he was kind of badass. But I know in fifth edition, people have said he was pretty fucking weak.
Well, I'm like, I think it's just a problem with CR being broken in fifth edition. It just
It
doesn't work.
yeah, it doesn't. It really doesn't.
On the one hand, though, I do enjoy it. You know, I've been trying to do the Al campaign and just trying to figure out like how many 1/8 CR monsters I need in a fight versus 4 players.
32.
Technically, it's 8. You know,
32.
it's just it doesn't seem to really work. And like you can, as a DM, just really kind of just bend, what you're doing, and just you're now winning versus all the players. There doesn't seem to be a way out around it half the time. So
Yeah, yeah, it's either the players are going to steamroll what you have in front of them or they're going to end up on the back foot. It's so difficult to properly make a perfectly balanced encounter.
yeah,
And
it's
CR is it's probably the best you're going to get. Like it's acceptable because it gives you a rough idea of how powerful things are, but it's there is no magic formula for it. A couple of missed dice rolls can completely alter any combat.
yeah. One thing I did do is on my little um, trip to the Dragon Horde. Um, I
That
visited.
that was your gaming store or something?
No, it's just what I call my 2-week adventures.
Oh, the
My
Dragon Horde. Okay.
exciting adventure to the Dragon Horde that I never want to do again. Um, I visited an old park that I grew up playing on when I was a kid. The cool thing about this park is that, well, when I was a kid, it was just a vast open field with this like weird wood line all the way around it, and you could boat up to this weird structure that was halfway in the water, like it was an old abandoned stone house or something,
All right.
and people kind of just were always there, so it was like a little beach that people would go to, so you could boat up to it. During the winters, you could snowmobile up to it and just snowmobile around this giant field, have lots of fun. Um, but we would always boat there and, like have picnics and play on the beach area. But if you went into the wood line, you found this old abandoned amphitheater that was used like by the local town hundreds of years ago.
Huh.
And it was still kind of just in relatively good shape, just creepily overgrown. Uh,
It's made of stone.
yeah, stone and like steel. And it was like it was heavily overgrown, so it's really creepy. All the buildings are still there, but they were just like, you know, empty and just like there's no walls and stuff like that. It was really creepy when I was a kid, but I just remember love going there and kind of like having shootouts and adventures and just having letting your imagination go wild.
Right.
Now the state park owns that land, so now the stone building that was in the water is no longer there, and the overgrown amphitheater is now just an open air amphitheater. They didn't rebuild anything; they just left it as is. So I took all these pictures of this giant, huge, like decaying ruins of an amphitheater that some old god got summoned in to, you know.
Yep.
And essentially that was my first dungeon when I was thinking about it. That was the first place I ever actually explored as a kid that was some kind of old abandoned ruins where I found things and, made memories. beat up bad guys because it did get into a lot of fights there, and kids.
Yep.
And yeah, it was my first dungeon, like real life dungeon. That was it.
Yeah.
That was my level 1 experience. This old abandoned amphitheater.
As a child, just letting your imagination go wild with things.
Yeah,
But yeah, that's
I
pretty
mean,
cool.
yeah, it was weird. Like it had like this little cave thing underneath it, but that was locked now. But and it had like
Okay.
this like director building or whatever in the far back that you could climb up into and like throw rocks at other kids with.
Like the steam tunnels under, I think it's Ball State or something like that. A lot of colleges apparently have steam tunnels under them, but I know that some college kids will go out and run around through them and basically do LARPing and shit underneath them, which
Yeah,
seems like a terrible idea, but I know people do it or have done it.
what, going LARPing?
Well, that's definitely a terrible idea, but no, I mean running around in steam tunnels.
Oh,
That'd be like running around almost in the sewer. Yeah, it just doesn't sound safe or sanitary.
I mean, anything that's old and abandoned is not safe and sanitary.
Exactly.
It's
Exactly.
You're gonna die. You're gonna get sepsis. You're gonna have diarrhea for 6 months.
Yep. How did he die? Legionnaire's disease.
Yeah. So it was kind of cool going back there and seeing the old first dungeon. Um, I was able to get through the dragon horde quite a bit. I looked for any kind of like dice that was left over by the dragon, and all I could find was 3 6-sided dice. All right,
Yep.
and I don't know what they were used for or why they were just sitting in a box by themselves.
Were they
Like it
were,
was just
were they red
it,
dice with white numbering or white dice with black numbering?
they are red, transparent dice with
Yep.
white dots.
Okay. That's it. Jeez, I'm drawing a blank specifically on what those are for. They're from an older game of some sort.
Well, these
I
were just in a box, an unlabeled, unmarked box,
could have just been craps dice.
in a bigger box. Well, craft dice is just 2. These are 3.
Yeah, I know, but yeah, maybe they had a third one for whatever reason.
Well, these are not my official 3d6 straight dice.
Oh, okay.
Yep, and I rolled them the first time, and I got a 17. Then I got an 11. Then I got a 6, and then I got a 12. So I need to roll it 2 more times. Oh, that's not good. That's 7. And that's not bad. That's 11. So yeah,
Yeah. Off the
overall
top.
not bad for 3d6 straight.
Off the top of my head, I don't know what spells in D&D do 3d6 or weapon attacks.
Nothing that I know of.
There's got to be something, but I'm not gonna go digging for it right now, and I can't think of it off the top of my head.
So yeah, my 3d6 straight stats are 17, 11, 6, 12, 7, and 11.
For a second edition character, that's really good.
Right? That's pretty good.
Yeah, I would
Yeah,
be
it's
happy with
good.
those
Gonna
stats.
be a fighter of some kind.
Well,
Con's not
well,
bad.
no, you rolled them in order. So
Yeah,
what was the first number?
17.
Okay, so yeah, you're probably a fighter. What
Yeah.
the second was Dex, third's Con,
Oh,
fourth's
con 6. Ooh, that's bad.
well, hey, shit happens.
Yeah.
You're a really bad fighter.
I ain't got a health pool.
Yep.
My wisdom's 7. My intelligence is 12 though, which is
Yep.
great. I don't know why, but maybe I'll be an
Strong
arcane fighter.
strong as an ox, but a little bit sickly. That's so
So,
weird.
uh, I kind of brought that up to bring up my one topic that I want to talk about is ways of rolling dice for characters because there's 3d6 straight, which I've always wanted to play a character that way.
Mhm.
Um, and there's the traditional method of rolling 46 and drop on the lowest, and
Yep.
there's some that are like roll 46, drop the lowest, and re-roll ones.
Yep.
You know,
I've done all of these.
yeah.
So
Then I saw someone doing a 6d12 or 6d20,
The
and
fuck?
just going with that.
Well, that's how you end up with ones and twenties. Like that's just too far of a spectrum.
Well, the guy who did it, he had like 12 was his lowest. Everything else is like 17, 18, or 19.
Yeah, maybe one player gets lucky like that, but the other players will not. I mean, they can, it's just a randomized roll, but that just does not seem like a really good way to make characters.
Yeah, but for a one shot or just kind of this weird one
Yeah,
off adventure,
I mean, for a one shot, sure, go for it. If you're doing a campaign, please, for the love of God, don't do that.
what would be your funnest, weirdest way of rolling for stats?
Honestly, the weirdest way is just 3d6. Like that's just
3d6
it.
straight.
3d6 straight is. I did it for years, obviously, with second edition, and then even then in second edition, it was starting to change. Like campaigns would add in an extra uh, d6, drop the lowest. That's sort of where that came from. Or you would do it 7 times and drop the lowest stat. Uh, so the way I do it, I either allow I do one of two. It's either you're rolling 4d6 7 times, and you're dropping the lowest on each die and on each, or drop the seventh roll, whichever's the lowest. That's if I'm having people roll randomly. I do it that method. The other method that I use, and honestly, this is the way I'm probably going to do it going forward, is just to assign stats. I never like the stats that they have that are in the official D&D stuff. I think your highest numbers starting is a 15 or some shit like that.
Yeah, with
Yeah, like I just
15,
do it.
14, 12, 10, 11, 8.
Yeah, I am not a fan of that. I just am not. That's too weak of stats. So I always do 18, 16, 14, 12, 12, 10.
Yeah. But then you don't have any weaknesses.
Well, I mean, a 10's an average stat, but you're not playing characters for weaknesses. You're playing characters that are fucking superheroes. I mean, let's be honest.
Well, I mean, it really depends on the campaign. Like, if you want to play superheroes, just use hero points. Then you don't. Then where your stats don't matter, and you got your hero points to make up any losses.
Yeah. I just like handing out the stats. It's very simple. It's very easy. Everybody's going to be built numerically the same.
Yeah, but you don't find that boring at all.
I don't. My players don't. No, like I personally, if I can't roll stats, I'd rather be handed good stats.
I just find it just makes everything just too tedious. Like everyone's always hitting, no one's ever missing
No,
because they use the
that
eight.
is definitely not true.
They use the 18 of their primary stat, and
Yeah, they're going to, of
all.
course.
Yeah, it just sometimes it's just not fun. You know.
I mean, look, even with the 3d6, if you can place the stats where you want them, you're going to take your highest rolls for your primary stat.
Yeah, but you're not guaranteed always an 18.
No, you're not.
Um,
I mean,
trying to think of
old second edition, like strength was actually weird. If you had an 18, you would then roll percentiles and add it onto that. So, and for whatever reason, strength was the only stat that had that. If you have an 18 strength, you then roll percentiles, and if you have like a 0, 1, then you are at the bottom tier of the strength stat. If you rolled 100, you're at the top end of the strength stat, which would give you more bonuses. You would actually be stronger than somebody who had an 18, 25 or some shit.
yeah.
I
But
never, I
here
never have figured out a reason why they did that.
I was just trying hero points out instead of messing with the stats and just
Mhm.
seeing if that helps out on the having people feel like superheroes. Because I don't like the characters to be superheroes. I mean, I don't mind if they eventually become superheroes,
Mhm.
but starting off, just I want them to not fear for their lives, but just feel like they're actually making a difference.
I want my characters to be the Michael Jordans of the adventuring world. I want them to be, sure, they're first level, they have a long ways to go, but for you to go into the adventuring life and put yourself at risk every single day, yeah, It's going to be one of two things. It's either that's what you really are good at and want to do, or it's going to be some tragedy forces you into that. And if I'm running a campaign where tragedy forces the players into becoming the heroes, I would probably have them roll stats. But if you're already the hero type and this is what you're going to be doing, just give them the good stats.
See, I kind of feel like fifth edition was made to have you always be not heroes. Like you have to earn the heroes. Like usually by excuse me, like around level 5 or so.
Hmm.
That's when you've earned being a hero. And that's when you can start, pulling out the big guns, a la fireball and two attacks and stuff like that. But before that, I kind of like the idea of them just struggling a little bit, you know.
If you're first level, you're struggling even with good stats.
Fair.
Like first and second level still those levels really kind of suck. That's why a lot of games start you at third.
Yeah, and so like if you want to start off higher, you start off with third, especially now when with the new standard way of building your character, where you basically put two in your primary stat, you know, always, no matter what race you pick. It's everyone's gonna start off with a 18 in their primary stat, and it's just I don't know, feels dull.
Well, that's the great thing about this game. Everybody has the option. As the DM, you get the option of determining how you want to roll for stats. If somebody wants to roll 6d20, all right, go for it. It seems ridiculous to me, but it's not my game. I'm not running it. And
Right.
truthfully, I would probably play in a one shot like that. Yeah.
Yeah, I just that's why I like doing point buy. We let people buy their way, but they still just buy their the best primary stat all the time. And sometimes you get that one character. It's like, yeah, I'm going to kind of spread it out a little bit and be kind of average at everything.
Yeah.
Um,
It's just, the game is designed. I'm trying to think of how to say this. If you have the six stats that you've got, you're always going to have a dump stat or a couple of dump stats. And Constitution will never be negative, period. I've never seen a player take a negative con intentionally. Generally, it's always going to be a minimum 12, 14. And then if you are on the mental side of things, the charisma, intelligence, wisdom, it's going to be your primary stat that's all the way up. Typically, if you're intelligence based, then your wisdom is going to be pretty high, or the dex. Like, people are almost always going to build stat wise to have the best character. It doesn't matter what method you're using, if they're able to put the stats where they're able to put, without being told you know, the first roll is strength, second's dex, third's con. They're always going to take the best stats
yeah,
that they can in the slots that are going to help them the most.
yeah.
It's not really power gaming, but the game is designed for your it works best if everybody has the stats in the right place to make their characters the best they can. If you get somebody who has an 8 con or a 6 constitution, they're just going to die real fucking quick.
I mean that's true, but at the point in time too, you can start redesigning that system to take out those dump stats or whatnot, and kind of redefine what the stats really mean. Like you kind of look at like other games that follow the same method, like Fallout. You have your special, which is the same thing as the six
Yeah.
stats in D
Yeah.
and D. Um, and you usually wind up with the same kind of aspect too, where you're putting all your points into agility so you snipe better and stuff like that. But if you don't put any into luck, you're gonna start missing a lot of stuff. Um, the Fallout 4 was probably the best way of doing it, where like overall you had much less, you know, points into your actual stats themselves, and it was more about using those stat points to buy skills in those trees. So like you could, pump up strength all the way, and you could get all those advanced strength skills, but because you're so far in the beginning of the game, you're not going to be able to make use of any of those.
Hmm.
It probably doesn't work in the pen and paper world, but it works better in the video game side. But I'd be interested to see if there's
There is
any
a,
kind of
I mean,
development.
there's a
Or,
Fallout tabletop out there. I've seen it. I saw it this last weekend.
yeah, there's some new one out there that they're advertising or something like that. But that's I think that follows the Fantasy Flight Star Wars system,
I
where
don't know.
you
I
you
didn't get to look at it, so
yeah, you more or less build a pool of dice and you roll all at once, and like your skills kind of affect it. You know, like you have you just roll d6s and d8s and d12s and stuff like that, and it's all about the number of successes versus failures that you rolled and the advantages and disadvantages you rolled, and you kind of develop the narrative through that. But then again, it's a whole different type of, there's not just roll your attack, kind of thing. You build a dice pool up and then you roll and see what happens.
makes sense to me.
Are you sure? Because you got somewhere like him wrong earlier.
Fair point. Fair point. Lord, yeah,
I'm still
Lord,
kind of I'm still kind of bewildered by that. Like your players called you out. Like did they do it like in person in front of other people?
no, so they just listened to the podcast, and then they're like, "Wait, that doesn't seem right." Uh, the only reason I think that it even was noticed was because the player who did notice it had just got done playing a wizard, and he had been looking through all the spells recently, so he was familiar with Simulacrum because he had just read it within the last couple of weeks.
Interesting.
Yep.
That's funny.
Yeah. Yeah, like I am pretty good with spells, but I've played so much fucking tabletop and so many editions, like I can't remember it all, and I will definitely mix up editions. I do that all the time.
Yeah, I mix up taglines a lot, especially from game to game.
Hmm.
Like, what's a tagline for like a fire based swing and at our LARP?
Flaming.
Is it flaming?
Hmm.
Because I remember saying flaming a bunch and getting pulled to the side and saying no, it's fire.
Oh, it is
And,
flaming.
and then the very next game saying fire and getting pulled aside and saying, hey, no, it's flaming
Yep.
by an
Because
entirely different person.
yeah, because people don't know the fucking rules. Yeah, and I'm guilty of it. You're guilty of it. Every single person who plays in any LARP, any tabletop, in any sort of game like that, you're gonna fuck up the rules sooner or later.
I know all the rules to my character. Trust me. I know
And yeah,
exactly what I can do. It's very simple and very just straightforward. Hit things, call these numbers, but
I
um
attack. I attack again. I attack again.
but people still to this day mess up whether or not fatal blow brings you to dead status or slain status. It's
Oh
still
yeah.
still hilarious watching people argue about that.
Of which we're not
Uh,
even going to discuss all that because that's LARP shit and has nothing to do with D&D. But yes,
well,
you're correct. People don't know the rules.
and that's why having my rules lawyer there is always really great.
Yeah, and then there's the issue as well of D&D with Unearthed Arcana stuff because I've been sitting here reading over the Dragonborn. I think it's Dragonborn Draconic options,
Yeah,
and like if I read over these, there's nothing saying that when I'm making an NPC or making another character that my brain's not going to register these as being the official ones. Because they've changed things. Like breath weapons in the actual book are fucking terrible because it's your entire action to breathe, of which they're going to make a save, of which you're going to then do almost no damage. Whereas with the Unearthed Arcana, they've added in the ability to just make a breath weapon attack as one of your attacks. So if you're a fighter and you have 3 attacks in a round, you could swing your sword, and then do breath weapon.
huh.
Hmm.
I
Yeah,
thought
I
Dragonborn Fourth Edition it was a bonus action.
in fourth edition it might have been. In fifth edition, it's not. It is your action to breathe. Now there's potion of fire breath or potion of dragon's breath, some shit like that. That
There's a
is
spell that does that. Yeah.
yeah, well yeah, it might be a spell, but I know for sure there's a potion of fire breathing, and you can consume the potion, and then for up to an hour you can breathe as a bonus action 3 times. And if I'm wrong, I'm sure some motherfucker's gonna call me out, but that's how I remember it, and I've done that fairly recently. So,
Yeah, yeah. The breath weapon was a minor action, which is essentially a bonus action.
okay, well, that's some 4th edition stuff, so, I don't know.
It's really weird. Minor action, bonus action is essentially the same thing.
Mhm.
Um, and it didn't make sense calling it a minor action, but I guess the reason they changed it was because people thought that, hey, because I have a minor action, I need to find something to do with my minor action, or else I'm not utilizing my turn correctly. And
Right.
so they found out that the word bonus action didn't make the players feel guilty by not using it because it was a bonus action and not a minor action.
Really? Oh
That is the
my
story of why they changed it from minor action to bonus action.
It's
Because
probably true. They did some fucking
no, 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 it is true. I read that shit.
yeah, I believe it. They did a study or something, how does the word minor make you feel? How does the word bonus make you feel? All
Yep.
right, bonus action it is.
But it was so cool. It's like it was move, minor, and then action. It made
Yes.
more sense than
That was
action,
actually
bonus, and move. Yeah.
yeah, that's still a really good change from 3rd edition. 3rd edition by the end of the game sort of get bogged down. You had action, you had swift action, free action. Um what else? There was like 5 different actions you could take over the course of a turn or some shit.
I think it's Pathfinder that has like the multiple actions. Like you have two actions and making an attack costs two actions or some shit.
I haven't played Pathfinder. We can ask Bruce. He'll know.
Yeah. Um,
I'm
I'm
sure
pretty sure it's
he's gonna call me tomorrow after he listens to the podcast. Be like, you guys don't know what the fuck you're talking about.
I'm pretty sure it's Pathfinder does that, which just sounds really weird to like start assigning values to how many actions a thing takes
You mean exactly like Fallout?
for action points.
Hmm.
I mean,
That's what Fallout is. It's always been that way.
if you're in VATS, but who uses VATS? You just shoot things.
Yeah, well, I use
That that
VATS.
VATS is for people who can't aim
Yeah,
and need a computer
so
to
I
aim
use
for you.
VATS.
All right. So
Yeah.
you have your topic and your spell and other segments for you to go through.
Well, yeah. I mean, I
Your
just wanted
turn.
to. I wanted to. Oh, my turn. I've been taking my turn all this time. All right. So yeah, the Unearthed Arcana draconic options. I actually, you know me, I'm not a big Unearthed Arcana fan, but I actually do really like the changes they made with this. So they've split Dragonborn into 3 different classes. You have your chromatic, your metallic, and your gem Dragonborn, basically hitting all 3 types of the dragons. So you can now be a gem Dragonborn if you wanted, which was not a thing before.
So you're a crystal gem dragonborn.
You could be. They have let's see what types. They have amethyst, crystal, emerald, sapphire, and topaz. Each one of them has a different damage type, and I'm assuming if you looked up those dragons in D&D, they're going to have the same damage types. But
Like,
amethyst was force, crystal is radiant, emerald does psychic damage, sapphire does thunder, and topaz deals necrotic.
can you like combine with different other gem types and become bigger and stronger?
Now, I'm guessing this is from some show you grew up watching as a kid that I'm not familiar with.
No, I didn't grow up watching it, but I did watch it.
But
I'm not
anyway,
gonna tell you. Keep going.
okay. They've changed it, like I said, though, as one of your attacks, you can now breathe. So the chromatics, which is the black, blue, green, red, and white, basically your Tiamat Dragonborn. Uh, and the DC for it is a dex save equal to 8 plus con modifier plus your proficiency bonus, and it deals 2d8 damage. They did change the damage leveling up though, so you actually
Mhm.
get 3d8 a level sooner, I think, but you get your maximum one a level later. I believe is what it was.
Huh.
So yeah, it's nothing major. It's nothing great, but it actually does make it usable if you're something that has multiple attacks. They also added a little something extra onto all of the Dragonborn, and each one gets something different. So the channel your draconic energies to protect yourself for 10 minutes associated with your chromatic ancestry. So as you know, if you could become immune to
Mhm.
fire for 10 minutes. I love it. I like that. The metallic dragonborn, they don't get anything like that. They get a second breath weapon. So the initial ones are fire, lightning, acid, fire, or cold, and it's let's see, works the same way as the other one. It's an exhalation of a cone, so you can catch multiple creatures with breath weapons. And the effects are each creature in the area must succeed on a con saving throw or become incapacitated until the start of your next turn. Yeah, so
That's
it's
neat.
actually as well, if you have multi attack, you could do both breath weapons in the same turn. Instead of an attack, you just breath weapon one, breath weapon two.
Yeah, because in fourth edition there were like 1,000 feats
Yeah.
in the game, and one thing you could do is you could take any dragonborn, and instead of like buying feats for your class or getting feats for your class as you leveled up, you get feats for your
Cool.
breath weapon. So like you could enlarge it and empower it, and then like add different damage types to it, and just make it more and more and more powerful. And then I think they even had like a heroic tier like subclass that
Mhm.
you could pick just for dragonborn, and you basically you start focusing on just your dragon breath being the only thing that you do.
I absolutely love the idea of being
So
able to power up
it's
the breath
interesting
weapons. Like I
that
played a
they're adding
Dragonborn in
more
a
to it.
campaign fairly recently, and I almost never used it because it's taking up my turn when I could be doing something actually useful. These things don't deal a lot of damage, so it's better to just deal the most that you can, as opposed to wasting your entire action doing these. Uh,
Yeah.
the Gem Dragonborn, they get a couple of things aside from their breath weapons. They get Psionic Mind, which you can telepathically speak to any creature you can see within 30 feet of you.
Yeah.
They can't speak back, but you can send your thoughts to them. It's kind of cool. And they also get Gem Flight. Starting at third level, you can use your bonus action to temporarily summon an array of spectral gems that match your gem ancestry in the shape of wings that last for 1 minute. For the duration, you gain a flying speed equal to your walking speed, and you may hover.
Hmm.
So, nothing amazing, but still pretty cool. Would be fun. And I like the idea of the gem dragons just because they have different damage types. You know, one of them gets psychic and one of them gets force. There's not a lot of things that have resistance against those. Psychic maybe, but force not. There's very few things with resistance to force.
Yeah, not really.
They also added in kobold as a playable thing, which
That was weird.
yeah,
Yeah.
I am not a fan of this version of the kobold. Like this
It's a
this version of the kobold.
it's Cobalt's like bigger cousin.
Yeah, like this would be the 6 foot tall kobold. Because kobolds are supposed to be 2 feet tall, and they're supposed to be skittish and scared most of the time. Whereas this one is, you have advantage on saving throws to avoid or end the frightened condition on yourself. I get it because they're draconic, but that just doesn't seem koboldish. I mean, isn't one of their abilities in the other book? Isn't it cower? Like you can grovel. It's
Yeah.
groveling. Like that's an ability. That's what a kobold should be. They're supposed to be
Well, I
they're the
mean,
gully dwarves of Forgotten Realms.
well these kobolds are and these all these draconic races and whatnot. They're not Faerun races, are they?
Uh, Truthfully, I don't
I
know.
thought it was like Dragonlance or
So
something like
Dragonlance
that.
has something very different. Uh, and I
Okay.
am drawing a goddamn blank on what they're called right now, which that's going to irritate me because you know me, I love my Dragonlance. They had their own version. Yeah, the Draconians. That's what it was. And they were different types. There was the Kaz Draconians, the Boz Draconians, and so forth. And each one was, they were, what it was is the evil dragons would steal good dragon eggs and take it and corrupt it. So when they would hatch, they would be evil draconic creatures. Uh, Yeah,
Yeah.
like the and I could be completely wrong on the types, so don't hold me to this, anyone listening. But like, just as an example, the Cos Draconians would all be spellcasters. The Bos Draconians would all be fighter types. That was sort of the idea behind that. What you're seeing here is the chromatic Dragonborn would not have existed because those are all evil dragons. They only stole the ones from the good dragons, from the metallic dragons.
Right.
So this, to me, this should be Forgotten Realms. Now, whether it actually is, I don't know. Just
Cause,
looking through the
yeah.
rest. Sorry to keep going. But looking through the rest of the Unearthed Arcana, they have a lot of spells as well in here that are sort of draconic in nature, and some of them have NPC names from Dragonlance, but some of them also have names from Forgotten Realms.
Yeah, I was pretty sure that this Draconic ones was based off of somebody else's world, whether it be Wild
Yeah,
Mountain or
and that's fair.
Dragonlance.
It's just hard to
So
say
kobolds could be very
what this
different
is
there.
pulling from or what this is supposed to be finalized into. Because Fizzban's Platinum Shield is a spell, and Fizzban was a character from Dragonlance. But Icing Death, there's Icing Death's Frost. That's the name of Dristuar's sword, Icing Death.
Hmm.
So I'm unsure where this will actually land.
So let's just agree to call these kobolds Burbolds.
Burbolds?
Bro
Brobolds. Okay.
bolds.
I can absolutely
Yes.
get behind that. And if they're called Brobolds, Uh, I would have to change one little thing about them though. It says size is small. Now they got to be medium, bro. If they're medium size, they could be bro bolts.
No, the
Oh,
Brobolds
okay, that's
are
what it is.
small. The
Chad bolts
Chadbolds
actually
are
start with
medium
+2
size.
strength, +2. They get +2. Actually, they just get advantage on any saves against poison. Yeah, because they're always drinking and yeah, partying at the frat house.
The charisma, they think it's like 16, but it's actually
Like,
like a 10.
yeah,
They can't go any higher.
yeah. I would actually set the starting charisma at 8. Never can go above 10. Fucking Chads.
All right. Well, that was almost an hour.
Are we done?
I think I did
Oh,
well.
and I
What
had shitty D&D ideas to talk about. We can say
one shot one shot McGee and Bullseye Bobby strikes again.
all right. Well, I'm Jay. That was Christopher. We're the grumpy
And one
dungeon
shot
masters.
McGee.
Craig is he's still here, sort of. I hope.
One shot McGee.
One shot McGee.
Yeah. And you're Bullseye Bobby.
Bullseye Bobby. Biggity bam. We're out. Hey guys, thanks for listening to the podcast. Check us out on Facebook at
There's no at in Facebook. It's just facebook.com/Grumpy Dungeon Masters.
and on Twitter
That'd be at Grumpy_DMs.
and on Instagram.
At Grumpy Dungeon Masters.
And also be sure to follow us on Twitch.
Twitch.tv/Grumpy Dungeon Masters, where we play Rime of the Frostmaiden every Saturday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
Fuck yeah.